On a gentle spring evening, when the sky was painted soft pink and gold, Elenor Rose, later known to the world as Mrs. Alexander Hamilton, walked through the marble steps of St. Clair University for the first time. She was a young woman of quiet grace, careful steps, and eyes that carried curiosity like a secret flame. The scent of blooming lavender filled the air. Students hurried across the courtyard, laughter danced among the trees, and life felt beautifully new. Elenor came from a small countryside town, raised by her grandmother after losing her parents early in life. Books were her escape, and dreams were her food. She hoped to study literature, not because she wished to be famous, but because stories gave her a soft place to land when the world felt too loud. She was searching for the registration hall, brows slightly furrowed, clutching her file close to her chest, when she bumped into someone. Papers scattered like white petals in the wind. I'm so sorry, she gasped. The man before her bent down to help gather her documents. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with gentle brown eyes that seemed to hold stories of their own. A simple smile curved his lips, warm and calming. "No harm done," he replied, handing her papers back. "I'm Alexander. You must be new here." Elenor nodded, cheeks warm with embarrassment. "Yes." Elenor rose. Their eyes met for a brief second longer than necessary, long enough to make her heart flutter like a nervous bird. He offered to walk her to the hall. They walked side by side, speaking softly at first, but soon smiles and laughter slipped out naturally, like they had known each other long before this life. Alexander studied history, passionate about ancient wars and forgotten heroes. Elenor loved poetry, finding beauty in every word. Before they parted, he handed her a small yellow flower he had picked along the way. "For good luck," he said. She tucked the flower between the pages of her journal that night, never knowing that this small moment would mark the beginning of a lifelong story. A story filled with joy, pain, longing, and love deep enough to last beyond time. She went to sleep whispering his name to the stars, Alexander. And the stars, it seemed, were listening. Days turned into weeks, and Elenor found herself looking forward to campus mornings more than ever. Sometimes it was for classes, sometimes for the fresh air, but mostly because she might cross paths with Alexander. Their casual greetings soon became shared lunches under old oak trees. Study sessions turned into long conversations about life, dreams, and fears they never dared to share with anyone else. Alexander was friendly with everyone, yet different with her, more attentive, gentler, as if she was a delicate melody only he could hear. Elenor, shy yet sincere, opened her heart slowly, like a flower learning to trust the sun. One rainy afternoon, they sat together in the university library. The sound of raindrops tapping softly against the windows played like music. Alexander watched Elenor as she read, her eyes gliding across the pages, a few loose strands of hair falling gracefully over her cheek. "You look beautiful when you read," he said quietly, almost without thinking. Elenor paused, heat rising to her cheeks. I don't know what to say." He smiled gently. "Don't say anything. Just keep being you." He told her about his life, about a strict family who expected him to follow his father's footsteps in politics, a world of power and expectations he never truly desired. Alexander shared his wish for a simple life filled with meaningful moments, warm conversations, and someone special to walk beside him through every season. Elenor listened with her whole heart, feeling his sadness beneath his calm voice. She understood the longing for freedom, for love without conditions. When exams approached, they spent late evenings in the cafeteria, sipping warm chocolate, encouraging each other with laughter and comfort. Once, when she felt overwhelmed, Alexander reached beneath the table and gently held her hand. "You're not alone," he whispered. "I'll always be here." She believed him completely. One night, after a long study session, they walked home together under the silver moonlight. The town was quiet, the wind soft, and every step felt like a story unfolding. Alexander stopped suddenly, turning to face her with nervous eyes. "Elenor, may I ask you something?" Her heart raced. "Yes?" He took a small breath, brushing her cheek with the back of his hand, gentle as falling snow. "Would you like to be my girlfriend?" Time stood still. The world seemed to fade until only the sound of their hearts remained. Tears glimmered in her eyes, not of sadness, but joy too deep for words. She nodded softly. "Yes, Alexander, I would love to." He wrapped her in an embrace that felt like home, safe and hopeful. The moon shone above, witnessing the birth of a love as pure as spring water. That night they walked hand in hand, two souls beginning a beautiful chapter, together. Winter arrived quietly, like a soft blanket of white silk draped over the campus. Snow crowned the rooftops, each breath turned to visible mist, and footsteps crunched gently along frosted pathways. Elenor and Alexander met each morning wrapped in scarves, sharing warm pastries from the bakery near the gate, laughing at the way steam rose from their cups of hot chocolate. Their love was young, but deep, steady, gentle, and growing with every sunrise. When December came, Alexander invited Elenor to the prestigious Winter Gala, an event hosted yearly by his family. The thought both thrilled and frightened her. She imagined elegant people in sparkling gowns, grand halls filled with music, and herself, a simple countryside girl standing among them. But Alexander held her hands and whispered reassurance. "You belong with me, Elenor. That's enough." The evening of the gala, he presented her with a silver bracelet, delicate and shimmering. "For tonight," he said, fastening it on her wrist, "so I won't forget that you're my light in the coldest winter." The ballroom dazzled with golden chandeliers and glittering crystal. Music floated in the air like snowflakes. Alexander guided her through it all, steady and proud, his arm around her waist. People watched them with warm eyes, impressed by her soft grace, touched by the way Alexander looked at her like she was the only star in the room. His mother approached, tall and elegant, holding a glass of champagne. "You must be Elenor," she said, her eyes thoughtful. "Alexander speaks of you so often. It is a pleasure to finally meet you." Elenor bowed politely. "Thank you, Madam Hamilton. It's an honor." The woman studied her gently, then smiled. "You have a kind presence. I'm glad my son has someone who brings warmth into his life." Relief washed through Eleanor's chest. Alexander squeezed her fingers lightly beneath the table later, and she smiled back, small gestures full of love. When the night grew late, they slipped outside for fresh air. Snow fell softly, covering the world in shimmering white. Alexander brushed melting flakes from her hair, his touch tender. "Elenor," he murmured, voice thick with emotion, "I don't know what the future will bring. Life changes, people change. But when I look at you, I feel like I've found the life I want." She placed her hand on his chest, feeling the steady beat beneath her palm. "Then let's promise," she whispered. "Whatever happens, joy or storms, we face it together." His eyes glistened as he nodded. "Together? Always." Under the falling snow, they sealed their promise with a long, gentle kiss. The world disappeared in that moment. No sound but the quiet snowfall, no light but the glow of love between them. And though neither of them could see the future, they held on to hope, believing their love would carry them through every winter yet to come. Graduation came like a sunrise, bright, hopeful, full of new beginnings. Elenor walked across the stage in her navy gown, her heart swelling with pride as she spotted Alexander cheering loudly from the front row. They celebrated with friends, dreaming of a future filled with love and shared adventures. But life, they soon learned, does not always walk gently. Alexander accepted a position in his father's diplomatic circle. The work was respected, demanding, and time-consuming. Meanwhile, Elenor became a literature teacher at a charming local school. She filled her days with stories, children's laughter, and chalk dust on her fingertips. At night, she waited for Alexander's return, imagining conversations they would share, only to find him often late or exhausted. At first, they managed. Weekend dates turned into short evening dinners. Their long phone calls slowly became quick messages. Still, they tried, because love was worth fighting for. For their third anniversary, Elenor prepared a candlelit dinner. She cooked his favorite stew, baked warm bread, even wrote a poem for him, each word wrapped with affection. She wore the blue dress he once said made her eyes shine like ocean waves. She waited. And waited. When Alexander finally walked in, 2 hours late, his shoulders were heavy, his tie crooked, eyes tired from endless meetings. "I'm sorry," he sighed. "Work ran longer than expected." "It's all right," Elenor answered with a gentle smile, though her heart ached quietly. "You're here now." He sat, eating between checking emails and responding to messages. The candles burned low. Her poem stayed folded beneath her plate, untouched. She hid her disappointment like a fragile bird in her chest. Later that night, when he slept beside her, she cried softly into her pillow. Silent tears she hoped he would never see. Days passed. Sometimes they laughed like old times, teasing and cooking together. Other days, silence filled the space between them, thick and cold. Love was still there, but slowly strained by distance and obligations. One evening, Elenor finally spoke what her heart held. "I miss us," she whispered. "I miss talking without checking clocks. I miss slow mornings with you." Alexander looked up from his paperwork, eyes soft but tired. "I'm trying, Elenor. I just need time to prove myself. For our future." She nodded, swallowing her loneliness. "I know. I just worry. What if in building our future, we forget the present we once cherished?" He stood, walked to her, and pulled her into his arms. "We won't. I love you, more than anything." She leaned into him, feeling the beat of his heart against her cheek. Love still lived, warm and familiar. They held each other tightly, clinging to memories, promises, and fragile hope. Even when love is tested, it can endure, if both hearts still choose each other. That night, they slept hand in hand, two souls fighting gently against time. Years passed quietly, weaving themselves into a tapestry of shared dreams and simple joys. Alexander grew into a respected diplomat, traveling the world with dignity and grace. Elenor continued teaching, her gentle spirit inspiring children and colleagues alike. Their life together was not perfect, but it was theirs, built on laughter, patience, and the quiet understanding that love lives in the small moments. Their home became a sanctuary filled with books, photographs, and the warm scent of fresh flowers. Sunday mornings were sacred, slow breakfasts, soft music, and the comfort of each other's presence. They learned that love wasn't only grand gestures, but the steady beat of everyday life. One crisp autumn afternoon, Alexander surprised Elenor with a bouquet of wildflowers, their colors bright against the fading leaves. "For the woman who taught me that love isn't about grand speeches, but about showing up every day," he said, smiling. Elenor hugged him tightly, feeling the deep warmth of a love that had grown stronger through time's tests. Together, they traveled to places they had dreamed of: the bridges of Paris, the sunsets in Rome, the serene gardens of Kyoto. Each journey added new memories to their story, pearls strung along the thread of a life well lived. But as seasons changed, so did their health. A cough that lingered, breath that shortened, signs that time was quietly pressing close. Alexander became her steadfast guardian, accompanying her to doctors, holding her hand through treatments, reading poems softly when sleep fled her. One rainy night, as thunder rumbled gently outside their window, Elenor lay nestled in Alexander's arms. "Promise me something," she whispered. He brushed a stray lock of hair from her forehead, his voice thick with emotion. "Anything. If the time comes when I must leave, promise me you'll live fully. Love again. Remember me with smiles, not sorrow." Tears spilled freely. "I promise. But I want more moments with you." She smiled, fragile but true. "Then let's cherish every moment we have now." He held her close, memorizing every breath, every heartbeat, every silent whisper between them. Outside, the rain continued its soft lullaby, but inside, love was loud, unbreakable, eternal. For true love isn't measured by time, but by the depth of the moments shared. And Alexander Hamilton would carry Elenor Rose in his heart forever,